Today on CityCast Chicago, between the 4th of July weekend, Windy City Smokeout, and the growing number of cookouts I'm seeing in backyards and at the park, we in prime time barbecue season, my friends. So it's only right we talk about some of Chicago's best barbecue spots, and we even got a couple tips for the at-home pitmasters and rookies. It's Wednesday, July 2nd. I'm Jacoby Cochran, and this is what Chicago's talking about. It is 4th of July weekend, and maybe for you, 4th of July means fireworks, time at the beach. But for me, the number one thing I think about is good barbecue. So I brought in John Kessler, the dining critic for Chicago Magazine, to talk all things Chicago barbecue. John, welcome to CityCast Chicago.
Hey there. Thanks for having me.
Now, we really appreciate you being here. When you try in a barbecue spot, what are the qualities you're looking for? Like, what makes barbecue stand out for you, worth you going back a second, third, or even fourth time?
Basically, the main thing is I just want to try the meat without any sauce on it. And if you can taste the smoke in it, that is the good start. And then you go from there. And then you look for the seasonings. And then you kind of see how much, the smoke has permeated the edge of the meat and given it that nice kind of, pink ring and all that. Mm-hmm. So, but first you just got to taste it without any sauce.
I'm glad you mentioned that, because when I was talking to my girlfriend before I got on this call, and we were talking about, like, when someone says the word barbecue, what's the first thing they think of? Because some people think like barbecue and just traditional grilling are interchangeable, or that barbecue is that reference to the sauce, or is that reference to the process? So for you, when you're talking about something being barbecued, like what does that mean versus just throwing something on the grill?
That is a great question. And I am from Georgia. So that's a big distinction down there. You do not, mix up barbecuing and grilling. Barbecue means that you are cooking low and slow.
Yep.
So, it will be, you have hardwood. It is burning ever so slightly. It is indirect heat, and you are not getting that temperature much above 275 degrees so that the smoke can really permeate the meat.
Mm-hmm. My homie Darius is known in our friend circle as like the pitmaster. His brisket is something that we probably have like stayed up drinking, smoking overnight for somewhere between 12 and 16 hours, just like going back to it, spraying it with some apple juice, switching it into an oven bag, wrapping it in foil. I'm not gonna give away the whole process, but it is a long, committed process. Like when he says time to make brisket or ribs, throw something in the smoker, we know we're in for somewhere between 6 and 12 hours of work.
Yeah, now you're talking my language. That is just such a, it is a night of the soul. Some beer helps, but the results the next day are amazing, and you just have to tend it.
In school, I spent a lot of time traveling across the South for speech tournaments, and one thing I loved was getting to a new city or a new state and trying their barbecue, and coming to learn that, like, particularly in the South, people really lay their hat on their barbecue and their style. You got Texas style, St. Louis ribs, Kansas City style barbecue, the Carolinas. Does Chicago have a specific style of barbecue? And if so, how is it different from those other regions?
We do. And it is different because it's cold here. And so when folks came up from the South, during the Great Migration, and they brought a lot of, barbecuing knowledge and techniques with them. But like, you can't stay outside all night in Chicago and tend to your brisket. You got to, you have to have it indoors. So there are these contraptions called aquarium smokers. And what they are, they're glass walled, or plexi, I guess it's reinforced glass. I'm not sure, but the smoke happens inside this chamber, inside a building, and then the smoke vents to the outside. It's a little less low and slow. It's still pretty low and slow, but it works really, really well on rib tips.
Would that be Chicago's traditional cut of meat?
Yes, because that's all the trim that came from the stockyards. There were a lot of rib tips there. There were a lot of people suddenly in Chicago who knew a lot about smoking meat. and, a beautiful marriage was made.
Obviously, the connection between the Great Migration, these hundreds of thousands, millions of Black folks coming up from the South, you get a lot of those traditions. But even during this migration and prior to, you've got, ethnic Europeans in Chicago, who have brought on their own traditions of boiled meats, who've brought in the bratwursts. How does maybe this like North Side or even European tradition of cooking meat differ from maybe this South Side barbecue, this far West Side barbecue?
Well, I think the difference is just in the technique. I mean, I think people know if you have your Weber grill and you stack up your coals on one side of it, but leave the other side, without anything there, maybe you put a water pan in it, you can create that indirect heat and you could cook something a little slower. Let's say it's, a turkey breast or a chicken or something that needs a little bit more time. But I am no expert on Eastern European grilling techniques, despite my own heritage. But I do believe that, sausages and the like are kind of cooked over direct heat. The lid's off, the coals are hot, you hear them sizzling, and that's kind of the sign of a really nice sausage, about to happen.
You coming from the South, how would you compare Chicago style barbecue to some of the more regional styles that you'd find in the South? And when you go out in Chicago for barbecue, do you go for more Southern style, or do you go for maybe the classic Chicago rib tip?
I mean, I am such a barbecue omnivore that if there is like meat and smoke happening together, I'm there for it. So I would say that I like both. I love going to Lem's Barbecue because I like that whole experience of it, of lining up outside, talking to people in the line, getting there and seeing the aquarium smoker inside.
The biggest one in the city, I believe.
Is it? Okay. Yeah, it is such a beautiful thing. And just to get inside there and feel that energy and hearing that thwacking of the meat on the cutting boards, smelling it, it's just such a Chicago experience. I get the rib tip and link combo with fries and sauce, and then just tailgate it. And it's, that's one of the best Chicago things you could do. Now, for Southern barbecue, lots of places try it. And here's the thing. It can be very inconsistent from day to day, from hour to hour at the same restaurant, right? Barbecue, there's a life cycle to it.
Exactly.
You put the meat on the grill, you tend it for so long, and then it's got a little window where it is perfection. Now, you can hold it, you can keep it in the steamer, there's lots of tricks, but it really depends when you catch it, how much meat they're moving. So for me, personally, coming from like the eastern side of the South, I'm all about the pork, the pulled pork and chopped pork. I've yet to find great, like, Eastern North Carolina barbecue. I look for it.
Who's doing the best pulled pork there?
Oh, man. The one I have, now it depends. It's been good sometimes and not good sometimes, all of them. There is Sanders Supply Company in Beverly. I had some very nice, very pink pulled pork from there. Soul and Smoke can be really good. I don't know the Evanston location as well as I do the Avondale one, but they can be quite good. Smoke up in Albany Park, I think. I think their brisket's a little better, but you go, you try, go on a busy day, don't go Wednesday night just before they're about to close. Go like midday Saturday.
You talk about your number one barbecue taste being what does it taste like without sauce? But for so many, including myself, some good barbecue sauce or a good sauce really takes it to the next level. What makes a good sauce for you? And do you prefer it a little more savory or a little sweeter? And who has maybe some of your favorite sauces in the city?
Lily Q's had really good sauce. I'm not like opposed to a sweet sauce. And I think, on ribs, they can be amazing. Most places now give you a whole variety of sauces. They'll have the vinegar, sweet, hot, and something else smoky. Once in a while, I don't know if you've ever seen this, but that Alabama white sauce, which
I
is,
haven't.
you've never seen that? It is essentially mayonnaise that thinks it's barbecue sauce. So, it sounds really disgusting, but it is mayonnaise, vinegar, celery salt, little this, little that. It's really good on barbecued chicken. And so you see that once in a while.
I love the barbecue sauce at I-57. That's probably the rib joint I grew up eating on the far south side. And that you could usually get like a rib and chicken combo over fries and some bread.
Oh, wow. Oh, I got to go try it out.
Yeah, a couple slices of bread. That one would always hit for me. That or like some Kenny's ribs and chicken. But I'm trying to get a deeper appreciation for the sauces. And one that I really enjoy is Lexington Betty.
Oh, yeah. Dominique, is that the pitmaster there?
Mm-hmm,
Yeah, she's awesome. I met her once. Yeah.
Yeah, they have not only one of my favorite sauces, but I think they do their sides very good. Because that's another thing I'm thinking about when I go to a barbecue restaurant is also like, what sides you got? Because yes, I want a good brisket. I want maybe some good rib tips, but I if I'm not just gonna get the fries and a piece of bread, I also want to see what you got on the side as well. And they got the macaroni, the baked beans, greens, candy yams, the cornbread.
I had some of her stuff once at an event and it was terrific. Down at Sanders Supply Company, they do a side that is a kind of a cornbread with sweet potato on top of it. That is insanely good. It's weird. It is like, it's like fat yellow slices of cornbread with like the candied yams baked right into the top. But I love that.
I've had some Sanders. I really like their peach tea smoked wings.
Yeah, those are good.
I even heard their pulled jackfruit sandwich was good. And I'm not someone who's looking for any vegan or vegetarian barbecue at any point. But I heard that they do the jackfruit pretty good.
They do also on Saturdays only, they do a whole short rib. And it's kind of expensive, but it is like this enormous piece of the most succulent meat. And I remember when I brought it home, my wife and I were like dogs fighting over a bone trying to finish that thing. It was so good. Yeah.
We talked a little bit earlier about the true slow and low on a good beef brisket or a good brisket. Do you have a favorite brisket in the city?
The best that I remember trying was one time at Smoke up in Albany Park. I thought their brisket was really terrific. And then, was it Baby Gold?
Oh, was that Berwyn's? Baby Gold in Fitzgerald's out in Berwyn.
Yeah, I remember having a really great brisket at Baby Gold in Berwyn. I just remember it being really succulent, just really nice kind of, pink smoke ring on it. Mm-hmm. And I was like, oh yeah, this is the real thing.
They've got pork belly, pulled pork, sliced or chopped brisket, smoked chicken thighs. If you go out to Baby Gold, that smoked bone marrow.
Wow, bone marrow.
Mm-hmm. And they got some good sides too. Bacon braised greens, Cajun dirty rice, Granny's cornbread with the Cajun honey butter.
Those bacon braised greens were great. Yeah. And I'm always looking for good greens. It's really, there are so many crimes committed in the name of collard greens in the city.
It feels like oftentimes I think particularly when we're thinking about like soul food or like mac and cheese greens, like cooking them in mass often takes away from just how good they can be. Yeah. And so when if a restaurant, you talk about earlier, like things that can be inconsistent from visit to visit, that's typically how I feel about like yams, greens, mac and cheese, that depending on the time of the day you get it, same restaurant, it can just have a completely different feel and taste to it.
Do you agree with me that like places, they're always a little bit inconsistent? Like, I mean, you just have to go with the flow at them, or?
100%. I do find barbecue restaurants to be, it isn't going to taste the exact same every single time. The time of the day is going to impact it.
That's it.
Anytime I go to like an I-57 or a Sanders or even a Limbs, there is a level of consistency that I expect and I'm usually going to get. The meat is typically tender, right? The sauce is very consistent. The service is usually good. But like we said, it's hard to keep sides good at their best all day long. When you're talking about something as sensitive as smoked meats, like you said, depending on how long it's been out the grill, how long it's been under a heat lamp or in a steamer, we'll change that taste versus like, pulled right off, right? It's usually just enough to kind of understand that things can be different from visit to visit, but never where I'm like, oh, this isn't good anymore. I need to move on to another place. I haven't had that experience when it comes to Chicago barbecue.
Yeah. All right, that's good to hear. Another place that came to mind when we're talking about real Chicago style barbecue was Honey One in Bronzeville.
I think they moved from, was it Bucktown to their Bronzeville location?
Yeah, it's like down right near Bronzeville Winery now, like not too far from there. Yeah, it's really, I like that place a lot. It smells good when you walk in there too,
I just had some friends who were in town who went to Bronzeville Winery and then stopped there on their way home to like grab something to take for later. And they really loved it. You were kind of talking a little bit about not only your love for the restaurant, but just love for the style of cooking. For people at home, what are your maybe quick tips for somebody who's trying to improve their barbecue game at the crib?
A lot depends on what kind of a grill or smoker you have. I have a contraption that's made in Atlanta called a Big Green Egg. Have you ever seen those things?
I've seen it. Yes, I have.
And that is great. It's has a big rounded top and the fuel box is in the bottom. And so you can really diffuse the heat and keep it very, very low and not have to tend it so much. But I would say my best advice for people who are just starting out would be to do something easy, just to get a feel for the meat. And I think the easiest thing to come out right would be baby back ribs, because they've got a fair amount of fat that melts all over. They've got a lot of connective tissue and fat just throughout the meat and on both sides. And so if they're fun to get a good rub it in there,
They do good in the oven, on the grill, in a smoker, whether you go indirect heat or direct. They typically are still pretty damn good.
You can't mess them up. I once saw some Italian woman put fennel seed and garlic all over baby back ribs and just blast them uncovered in the oven. And those were so delicious.
If a vegan or vegetarian made it to this point of the episode, what would you tell them are the best vegetables to barbecue? If you want, maybe it's not a meat-like feel, but if you want to participate in sort of the cookout feel, what's the best vegetable to throw on the grill or throw in the smoker for you?
Well, I mean, if you're going to do it soft and soppy and absorb a lot of juice, jackfruit is great. If you want to actually grill something, there's so many different vegetables are great on the grill. And also seitan, which is that sort of gluten, comes in long cakes. You can marinate it. It has a really nice texture and it gets crispy on the grill. I always love grilling super fat asparagus, thinly sliced zucchini or eggplant, where you just do it Italian style. Just grill it super quickly, put it on a plate, and then put olive oil on it and salt. That's delicious. Acorn squash rings, I like to toss those with a lot of warm Indian spices and salt and oil, and then just put those on the grill, and they get kind of crispy on the outside, creamy on the inside.
I got way more out of that question than I thought. You went right into it. I really appreciate that. Were there any other restaurants or tips that we didn't get to?
It's kind of a ringer in this conversation, but I think honestly is one of my favorite places for smoked meat is a halal restaurant called Meat Moot Smoking. Meat? Moot, M-O-O-T. And they only serve halal lamb or beef. and they do cuts that really do well for that low and slow smoking in these. And you walk in there and there's just a bank of smokers just waiting to greet you. The guys who work there are hilarious. It's a Turkish-owned restaurant, and they have different branches around the world. But they'll like feed you. They'll open up some meat and they'll be like, they'll hold it out like they'll want to put it right in your mouth sometimes. It's hilarious. And so people are always charmed by that. But then you order, let's say, like lamb shoulder, and they'll just pull out, this beautifully, wrapped up, beautifully done, super juicy lamb shoulder, and you get that. You order it by the pound, and then all the rest of the meal is as much as you want. Like there's a ton of vegetables and rice and sauces.
And potatoes. Yeah, I'm looking at like 8 different sauces. It looks like a chimichurri and a confit garlic and chipotle mayo. Looks like a whole lamb
honestly,
rib.
Honey. They put honey on the barbecue, and I was like so skeptical at first, but I love. They'll give you giardiniera, and you can get like honey and giardiniera on their smoked lamb is like great. But check it out at lunch too, because they do a lunch special, which is only like $20, and it's insane how much good food you get for that.
Is there a restaurant that maybe isn't advertising they do barbecue, but surprisingly has a good barbecue item or something that you wouldn't expect?
There are some Szechuan restaurants here that have this tradition of making tea smoked duck. And they'll take these whole half ducklings and cook them low and slow over smoldering tea leaves. And they're really smoky, absolutely delicious. Chef Zhang, it's a funny little restaurant in, it's not little, but it's a restaurant in Chinatown that has been there for a bit. They have really good noodles, and they do that dish well. It's Chef Zhang, Xiong. Oh yeah, and Chengdu Impression. They're all over the place, and that's my favorite place for carry out. So I'll try the tea smoked duck and report back to you.
One more place that I'm sure people who listen to have either heard of or been to, Green Street Smoked Meats.
Yeah, it's been a while since I've been there. It's a fun place. It's got great atmosphere. I remember from my last visit there, what I really loved were the chicken wings. They're like sort of the kind of little chicken wings that are all like, spice dusty, and you just get all over your fingers, and, super, super smoky. But I remember kind of just, going down on the chicken wings there and really enjoying them.
Yeah, I think the last time I went was probably for work, maybe a little over a year ago. And I think we got a bunch of different stuff, but I really enjoyed the beef short ribs and the brisket chili last time I went.
Oh, wow. Okay. Oh, good to know. And I like that coffee shop they have there too, Sawada Coffee.
John Kessler is a fantastic dining critic with the Chicago Magazine. We appreciate you making time to talk barbecue with CityCast Chicago.
Well, thank you for having me. It was a pleasure speaking with you. And it's nice to meet another, what is the word? Aficionado?
Aficionado, yes, sir.
Aficionado. There you go.
Before we get out of here, please bookmark our website, chicago.citycast.fm. There you can catch up on old podcast episodes, subscribe to our daily newsletter, Hey Chicago, take our weekly news trivia quiz, recap our guide to July. We got so much on there for you, and it's all for the free. I just wanted to give a huge shout out to the opening of Lumina Arts in Uptown off Lawrence and Winthrop. It's founded by Chicago artists JC Rivera and Anna Verti. Their opening celebration and exhibitions are tomorrow night, July 3rd from 6 to 9, featuring art from 2 Chicago-based artists, Emily Van Hoff and Disque Uno. Check out their work, y'all. It's fantastic. As always, I appreciate you for making time for CityCast Chicago, and I also want to show appreciation to the people who make this podcast and newsletter possible. Our executive producer is Simone Alisea. Our producer is Michelle Navarro. Our Hey Chicago newsletter editor is Emmy Mack. Our social media manager is Rick Homuth. The music we all love is from Sam Thousand. All the Kimonos and Mark Greenberg from the Mayfair Workshop. Additional music this week from Carl Christensen. We are going to be off tomorrow for 4th of July. On Friday, we got another special all-host CityCast episode for you. Got the hosts from Austin, Boise, a half from DC and Vegas, Denver, Houston, Madison, Philly, Portland, Nashville, Pittsburgh, Salt Lake. Of course, I'm going to be in the building. And we doing a little face-off, a little competition. Which city would you most like to spend a summer weekend in? Spoiler alert, they do us dirty, y'all. They do us dirty. But we're going to be back with your regularly scheduled program on Monday. We'll talk to you then. Peace.